What's up, binge watchers? Welcome back to our channel. For today's episode, we are going to do a review of the second season of Amazon Prime Video's most popular TV show. For those who are not aware of this show, The Boys is about a world where the superheroes are taking up a celebrity status where they are being run by PR teams to capitalize on their fame, whether they are for movies, for food, for theme parks. But those superheroes are not our main protagonists of our show. The main protagonists are a group of regular people, vigilantes, who seeks to overthrow those superheroes and the company that manages them, which is the Vought International. And by the end of season 1, we came to know that the superheroes are made, not born, and they are heavily dosed by this compound V, and throughout the actions of the boys, our vigilantes, they find themselves being wanted at the end of the first season. The second season promises to be bloodier, more crazy and diabolical as ever. Joining me in this review is my friend from Rappler, Tristan Sinampan. Hi.
Hey, Kev.
Why don't you start off first with your overall impressions of the first 3 episodes?
Right now, from what you see, it's more or less the same as the first season. So if you enjoy the first season, more or less you'd enjoy, again, the second season. But like what you said, it promises to up the ante. If in the first season, the boys, the titular boys, they're more of low-key, hiding in the underground. Here, they're out in the open and they're clashing directly with Justice League analog, the Seven. It gets to a point where you get to forget how crazy the events of the first season were. In this season, every episode, they have a huge set piece that basically tries to redo or do even more what they did in the first season. From what I'm seeing right now, because it ends with a sort of teaser for where the story of season 2 is going. Well, this is just based on my feelings that the commentary of this season will point towards populism and racial injustice, racial oppression.
I'm getting the similar vibes. You know, this is a show that there's so much happening because this is an ensemble piece and each character have their own storylines, and you begin to sense that they are further exploring these characters. So yeah, we have the two sides, the superheroes, then the regular people, and then it feels like a juggling act with all the themes. You've mentioned some of the commentaries that will be more real life based, and I feel like they're tackling a broad number of issues here. The first few episodes of the second seasons are just trying to internalize what's happening in the first season. In terms of the boys, the vigilantes, one can say that the storyline so far for their group has been on a slack, and I felt like that the show is trying to develop right now in its early stages their dysfunctional family. So it's more about the banters and more about the bickering. The hope for that show continues to be Huey, who has this internal turmoil. He has transformed from a guy who sells audio and video equipment to someone who's been part of a vigilante group. Now the first episodes are taking a toll on him. I am also glad because we are finally seeing something new of an arc for Kimiko, the mute member, and I think she's slowly turning up to be an endearing character.
Okay, we know that the boys, though we're calling them a vigilante group, in reality, they have some connection, though it has not yet been expounded, like how connected are they to the CIA. Though we may not know if they're actually funded, but we are getting the sense that they used to be, that they could have been funded by the CIA before, and then they're trying to get back into its good graces. So it's more of like a black ops team. So
Yeah.
we're seeing their connection, or like how they function in the larger picture of things. Like how I see it, it is the government's form of check and balance against this corporation. But as we know, in this world, superheroes are not free agents. They are corporate products. They are nearer to mascots and celebrities who are managed by PR teams, and even their heroism behind the curtain, you have to doubt it. Like what I'm seeing, how it connects, it's like you have government check and balances, and then you have this entity, this very capitalist entity, and then corporate conspiracy. So like the first episodes, it's trying to unpack like, okay, these are all the revelations of the first season, and now what are the direct results? So the way the first 3 episodes ended, it's like we're only starting to see what will happen next. There was a huge twist during the first season. It's revealed that Becca, Billy Butcher's wife, is still alive, and that Homelander sired a child with Becca.
What I've noticed is in season 1, he has this Oedipal complex relationship with Madeline Stillwell, and he is trying to break free from being a baby. Second season, he found himself to be a father.
Homelander, who had huge issues when it comes to familial bonds. Like, he's looking for father figures, mother figures.
Yeah.
But he was basically grown in a lab. So now here he's trying to practice Psycho Superman becomes a dad. We're getting a glimpse of that. Like, I cannot fully hate him. He is psychopathic, but there are parts of him that you can empathize with. Like, okay, this is a seriously messed up individual, and then he's trying his best to function like a normal father. Like, hey, I want to play catch. But he does it in ways that are seriously messed up. It's not that hard to imagine why Homelander acts the way he does. And he tells his son, we are basically gods and we can do whatever we want, and I want you to embrace your legacy. Anthony Starr, the guy playing Homelander, he does it so well. And then when you talk about the boys itself as an entity, as a group, like what you mentioned, this ragtag group, you get to see that they are the family that you choose. So now we're starting to see it form, especially since you have an everyman like Yui entering the group, and then he serves as basically the moral compass. So you actually see characters like Mother's Milk and then Frenchie, the Frenchman, starting to respect Yui as someone who actually serves a purpose.
And also don't forget about Kimiko. Mother's Milk said that Kimiko is now one of us, and there's a gag on season 1 that there are the Spice Girls and Kimiko is definitely not a Spice Girl, but now they have chosen to form this family. And yeah, I think right now there's a power struggle that's happening between Billy Butcher and Huey. Billy Butcher, another interesting character, is really insensitive, come to think of it. If you've only seen him in one perspective, you will immediately dismiss this character as a villain. For the side of Huey, he's trying to attack that insensitivity issue that Billy Butcher has. So we have some clash of egos happening over there. And then back to Homelander, I also agreed on what you said, because this show is about answering that moral question about what are you gonna do where you're gifted with that powers, because most of the superhero shows, they talk about the responsibility, but you know, in real life, in real context, how many people will actually take that responsibility and not do it for their own personal gain? That running theme for season 1 to season 2, the corporate greed, can still be seen. I think this will be a perfect segue for the arc of Starlight, because in season 1, she has this #MeToo movement thing going on when she tried to speak up about the sexual harassment that happened to her. And then the second season, there's a female empowerment campaign that's happening. #Girls Get It Done. And that really is another funny take, because it seems like another half-assed attempt from the VOT International to pursue that goal just for the sake of it.
Currently, we're seeing a wave of superhero media positing the idea of what if we ground this, if Watchmen is more somber, it tackles oppression, race. This one, it's more cynical, snarky. What The Boys does, it's, you have Starlight, you have Billy Butcher and Yui. There's this clash between idealism and pragmatism. So you have Billy Butcher, who's been doing this for a long time. Again, maybe a military man who's more focused on the goal rather than the moral implications. And then you have this character like Yui, who during the first season barely spoke up, always said no to things. I don't want to pursue it. And now he's trying to gain his voice and say, okay, this is wrong. I'm gonna be more proactive. I'm gonna try to fix things. Starlight, who starts off as like this wide-eyed, ideal, I want to be the best kind of superhero.
Yeah.
But then she gets exposed to like the dark side of heroism.
Yeah.
And then she has this like a loss of faith. How bad can it be? The oppression that you experience gets repackaged as a capitalist product. Like, okay, I'm gonna speak out against my harassment. And then Bot says, how can we turn this into business? So let's make it into a slogan. Let's turn it into a marketing campaign, basically. I like how all these intersections are being tackled in a way that's still entertaining, that's not that distasteful. If HBO has more grounded, more heartfelt takes on the matter. This one, it's the more editorial cartoonist, the satirical take. So that's something I enjoy. And it tackles so much like how the capitalist structure is so integrated into this society. To turn a blind eye and justify all these injustices, you turn to hero worship. Basically, religious in nature, like they won't hurt us. They are our heroes. They're God's gift to humanity. But then you have revelations that basically break the ideals held. Like, you actually hear them say that we're not a superhero company, but we're a pharmaceutical company.
Yeah.
Whose main product is this compound. And speaking of compound, we have to talk about Giancarlo Esposito's entrance as the head of what.
That's one of a good addition because he has this calm but at the same time intimidating presence. If you've seen Breaking Bad or Better Call Saul, you guys are familiar with the
Mandalorian
capacities. Yeah, putting him in such a figurehead position for the VOT really makes sense. And since you mentioned about Starlight, I think it's also worth mentioning about Maeve because she herself admitted that she feels like that Starlight is a younger version of her. So season 1 kind of felt wanting more from her, but something tells me in second season we're going to learn more from her because now she's trying to break free from the shadow of Homelander who have influenced her, who have corrupted her ideals. And what else about the Deep? That's another storyline that kind of fluttered by the first season when he got kicked out by the Seven. By the third episode, now his storyline starts to tie up more with the Seven and the show starts to feel more coherent. So guys, now we are headed to our spoiler review. If you haven't seen the first 3 episodes, don't watch this, but if you already have, feel free to join our discussion. So by the end of episode 3, something big gets revealed. The corporate conspiracy about the Compound V being used to manufacture superheroes that they are not born gets out in the public, and Mr. Edgar quickly spins this story into their benefit by emphasizing the need of superheroes more than now and ever. And speaking of superheroes, Stormfront, who seems to be likable at first, ultimately has an ulterior motive, and she's proven to be a Homelander female version as she becomes hostile against civilians, and she clearly has less moral values than we expect, and she starts to show some signs of bigotry. So Tristan, what do you think about that?
It makes sense that Amazon decided to release 3 episodes because the third episode ends with a sort of cliffhanger. What I like about The Boys is that when you talk about the Seven, yes, they're reprehensible, but then you get layered characterization. Like Queen Maeve, though she may be an enabler of Homelander, you get to understand that she's just this jaded, worn out hero who might be like Starlight when she started out, but she's now been reduced to this another cog in this great machine. And then you have like A-Train, who's basically a junkie. You know how like in the real world star athletes are forced to perform? That's why they become hooked on performance enhancers. So A-Train is that. And then you've got the Deep, who's insecurities with how women perceive him. He turns this into more predatory behavior. So you get fleshed out characters who you may not exactly agree with, but at least you could show pity to or like understand where they're coming from. Even Homelander has some complexity to him, but then you get Stormfront, who becomes straight up possibly the worst character that you could possibly see in the show. So I'm really interested in seeing how this becomes more developed. Like if we turn her into a more sympathetic figure like the rest of the Seven, or I don't even know if it's ideal or if it's not unproblematic to put some sympathy with someone who espouses bigotry.
It's such a shame because I started to like Stormfront because we have 2 female characters, Maeve, who's a little bit subdued, and Starlight, who's also being hesitant, and to have a female character that speaks what's on her mind. I felt like this is the female empowerment that we're looking for, but the show takes it into a different perspective that just because that she's a female and she speaks up her mind, you can treat this character right away as one of the more likable characters. And based on the turn up of the episode 3, I think the plan for her would definitely make her a bigger villain. So usually in shows, there's a villain, then the second season, there will be a bigger villain so that we get to sympathize more about that villain, which is Homelander, that he is not that bad. Look, this person is going to be a worse version of Homelander. So I think that's the route that they're going for. And I agree, the show really excels in painting morally ambiguous characters. Same for the group of the boys. They take things into action, but they're operating in the world where they can't really do things in their ideal way, that they need to get their hands dirty. So no one comes out here clean, and I think that's a good approach that the writers and the directors have taken into consideration.
We mentioned already how season 2 is setting up maybe a possible bigger villain. So I get how maybe down the line we can see characters like Homelander, the Deep, who are portrayed as very reprehensible in the first season, gain more sympathy or even try to forward or maybe team up with the boys. It's really interesting.
I hope that's not a spoiler from the comics though.
No,
No, just kidding.
I haven't read, for full disclosure, I only read like the first 4 books. This is one of the rare cases where the show is the better adaptation. The comic books is really extreme, like it's raunchy, it's orgies left and right, drugs left and right. So this tempers it and actually makes a more cohesive story. And I'm interested to see how it plays out.
My main concern, however, well, not particularly concerned because the show goes for its different issues. I'm not sure though if it's going to present those issues as a form of sarcasm and not really go into the depth of those issues. For example, they're starting to tackle about white supremacy. A show like Lovecraft Country will be able to dig deep and give more substance. I'm a bit hesitant if this show will actually make a substance out of it and not just pointing out those issues in a more comical way. Yeah, but so far I'm really enjoying this show and I have high hopes. Episode 3 really left me wanting for more, and I'm sure that's true for you.
Based on the first 3 episodes, things are going well. So we hope that this season gets to stick the landing. Like if they're able to translate the same kind of pointed criticism, pointed sarcasm, which was so good in the first season, into the new topics or the new issues that they'll be tackling this season. Like you mentioned white supremacy. I hope it handles it with care. They got to reconcile the comedy, the snarkiness with being tasteful. So that's a hope for the season.
We have to see how things pan out. But Tristan, thank you so much for joining me in this video. We are going to be back to do another full season review where we'll be dropping our final rating for the second season of The Boys. But if you guys enjoyed watching this video, please give us a like and consider subscribing to Screen Kings for weekly reviews on movies, TV shows, and video games. Also, let us know what you think on the first 3 episodes of the show. Hit the comment sections below. Thank you for watching. Till then, guys, see you on the next one.